But back in the day, you'd go into a classroom, you'd be like, why is there 2 bookshelves of resources here?
Yeah, sometimes you find a goodie there, but like a lot of the time, it ends up in the bin. So the real question we're going to ask here is, how many resources do you actually need that you're going to use over and over again every year?
You have literally just handed out the sheets and a child has come back to you and said, I finished.
I finished, and you're like, ah!
So when students are engaged, they're willing to practice longer, think more deeply, and develop the confidence that every mathematician needs. You see it when you pull out a game and kids just lock in and they're like, the bell goes and they're still playing. That's an indication to you right then and there, it's a good game. Or when it's transition time, you're like, all right, guys, you got to pack up. And they're like, oh, I was just about to get the highest score.
Rainbow Sky Creations acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we record this podcast on, the Darrell and Woodjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Welcome back to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the best podcast to listen to if you are a primary school teacher and you want to have fun in your job and have your kids up and learning in the best ways possible. Welcome back, Alicia.
Yes, I'm back. Thanks for having me. It feels so formal. Please tell me, what are my interview questions today, Ashley?
Sorry, I didn't mean to be so formal.
Oh, look, we're so glad you've stopped by. And we're going to talk about good old maths, because who doesn't love maths?
Well, we love maths, but I think one of the problems with maths and teaching it in the classroom is that it comes with its unique set of challenges. And we're going to be talking about those challenges today, as well as providing some solutions to some of these common challenges. So we're talking about things like some of your kids are finishing so early while others are still on the first question. We're going to talk about managing differentiation. We're going to be talking about things like
confidence,
practicing those maths facts, because when they don't know their facts, they can't implement it into all of the other maths lessons and it can get really frustrating.
Maybe you need to work on some independent learners and you really need some ideas for independent activities.
Yeah.
Perhaps there's some big gaps with those foundational level math concepts that they can't go to the next level because they still haven't got that base.
We've got 9 common challenges that we have faced ourselves in the classroom when teaching math. So we're going to go through each of the challenges. We're going to try and come up with some really fabulous solutions. So you're nodding along and you're thinking, yep, I can start putting these into practice in my classroom. And we're not going to make them too complicated because we're not about that. We're about ease, simplicity, and effectiveness.
Amen, sister.
Yes. All right. So let's start at the top with challenge number 1. And this is just so common. What is it?
My students finish at different times.
Yeah. If you've ever taught a kindergarten classroom, it's like a baptism of fire with this problem.
You have literally just handed out the sheets and a child has come back to you and said, I finished.
And you're like, you're still tying one shoelace before they've even gotten back to their desk. Okay. So every classroom has students who finish early while others need more time and more support. But the thing is, when you've got fast finishers, if you don't have a plan, that is when things unravel really, really quickly. So what can we do with our fast finishers that is easy, that will keep them occupied, but we don't want them just to be doing busy work. We don't want to just give them free time. Or something that we can do that's still going to keep their maths brain working.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a game, my friend. It is getting a math game. And these games that we like to use could be done independently. Or they could be done with a partner, okay? So it gives you the students autonomy to choose to play with a friend or to learn a skill, practice a skill, consolidate it. So it could be as simple as we've got like double it. So they get cards or dice and they roll numbers and they have to double it and they're covering it over a little template. So you've got it in a folder. You've got a space in your classroom where they know these are where all the games are stored, or drawers, and they just come and grab it. It has the materials there beside it. They know I'm going to need a dice or cards, whatever it might be. So it could be practicing their doubling skills. They might be working on making 2-digit numbers. So they've got a template there where it's 40 plus, they flip over a card, 5. Oh, that's 45. You could level it up. You're being working with MABs. They've got MAB blocks there and they have to make 45 with their MABs. If a partner comes along, you can go, hey, can you tell me what this number is? And they check if they got the answer right. So there's just some simple examples for our early years.
Yep. As your kids are getting older, you could get them to be working on square roots, for example, where they're flipping over cards. And we're saying flipping over cards because you probably know by now, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while or you've been on our socials, we love Uno cards for learning. And they are actually the perfect resource, the perfect tool to use for fast finishes. Because you've got mats ready to go. You might have purchased them in our store. They're ready to go. They've got the Uno cards. You know that the kids are going to like them because you've been using them in your classroom, and off they go. One thing that I loved to do in my classroom is just to have a tub that is my fast finisher tub, and I switch the activities out on a weekly basis. So the activities that go in may be games that we've played in maths a couple of weeks before, so the kids already know how to play. Or they may have other bits and pieces in there that the kids know how to use. For example, chatterboxes. They're a great fast finisher. And we've got math-based ones where the kids are working on a particular skill. It might be adding numbers to 10. It might be multiplication. It might be division facts. They make the chatterbox, so they've got the enjoyment there, but then they're actually using the chatterbox and they're working on whatever number fact that they're working on. So they might be doing division and they're practicing those division facts.
And if you've got the kid who wants to make the chatterbox and really decorate it, let them decorate it.
Yeah.
They're not bothering anybody. And then they can practice their facts after. But yes.
Exactly. So they're two really simple ideas, but things that you've already done before with your class that you know that you have enjoyed, pop those games, pop those activities into a fast finisher box, or as Alicia said, have them on your shelves or have them in display folders so the kids can just grab and go. And that's sort of a routine that you set up so that they know if they're in maths and they have finished, that is where they go next and they're working on more math.
Yeah, absolutely. Challenge number 2.
My students hate practicing their math facts. Okay, so let's be honest here. Most students don't wake up in the morning excited to practice their times tables, do they? But they need to learn them.
Look, there's a small 2% of the world who do, but the other 98% are like, not on the schedule today, my friend.
And our challenge here isn't convincing teachers that repetition matters. We all know repetition matters. You're probably nodding your head right now. The challenge is finding a way to make that repetition engaging for our students, because we know when they know those maths facts, it makes all of the other thinking in math so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So our all-time favorite, flip it, multiplication games.
Yes.
Lock in a 3 times flipping cards. 3 times 7, 3 times 8, 3 times 10. Well, actually, we don't have 3 times 10. Yes, you do if you use a playing card.
Yes.
3 times 1, 3 times 0 if you're using Uno cards. So it's a way for them to go, oh my gosh, I want to work on my 3s. I'll take that template and I want to lock it in. You've got kids who are like ready to go beyond that. They could be flipping over 2 cards at the same time and going, 5 times 9, 7 times 8. The ones who know all their times table, but they need to work on their speed or they just want to be the quickest. But then you're like, all right, but what about all the other facts? Division, addition,
subtraction.
Yes. You can do the same thing with cards and a template and flipping it over. Even still with my year 3s, I had some who were just terrible at their number bonds, and we would do flip it card games with their number bonds. Like if I flip a 3, what do I need to add? 7 to make 10, 6, flip it, 4. And then you can start to level it up and be like, all right, if you have 40, what do you need to add to make 100? And getting them to build on that math patterning and math skills. So it's highly effective, highly engaging, and I promise you this game will probably not leave your shelf for a term.
No. This is one of those games that you could put in that fast finisher tub, but it's also one that you could add into your math rotation. So every week you have a flip it game in your math rotation and the kids come and use it. They're great.
We can't even say enough how great they are. They're just great. We can consider the fact too of addition. You've got kids who are still working on their simple addition. They need to work on their doubles, their near doubles, their bridging over the 10s, their compensation. And cards or even dice are just a really easy, simple way for students to be practicing that skill. And they're getting that constant repetition. And to be honest, if you don't use it, you lose it. Even I know sometimes when I'm playing games with my kids, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really need to work on my skills. I got a bit rusty.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. The other positive about these Flip It games or any other sort of game that practices fluency is that as the students get better, they feel the success. And we're going to be talking about confidence a little bit later on. But that success piece is so important to build confidence, to build enjoyment, for them to start to realize, oh, I can do this. And then they're willing to take on more challenges as time goes on.
Dare I say, oh my God, you do have a maths brain. See?
Yes, exactly.
All right. Challenge number 3.
This is a challenge that I think is a bit of a brain block. And the challenge is you feel like you don't have enough activities for your math centers or for your math rotations or stations, whatever you call them. Math centers are wonderful, and we're big advocates of running math centers in your classroom until you've been running them for a few months. And then the weekly challenge is finding something new that the kids haven't done or that they're not going to get bored with or that's going to keep them occupied. But our secret here isn't constantly replacing these math center activities with brand new ones. It's finding similar resources that can be used across multiple concepts while keeping the same familiar routine. Now, we're going to talk about Uno cards here again because we love them, but because it fits in with this perfectly. So you might have 2 centers, 2 rotations that involve Uno cards, but they'd be doing different activities. So one week they might be doing a measurement game. The next week they might be working on fact fluency, like what we spoke about. The next week, they might be working on data activity, but they're using Uno cards, and that is the familiar piece that goes with it.
Yes. You can do the same with the familiar piece is playing cards. The familiar piece is dice. It could be for, say, like term 1. My kids would know the familiar piece was probably MABs, where they're manipulating numbers, or those regular tools that you're using. The familiar piece is it's an activity where they use a whiteboard and marker to record their answers. So finding a way to go, this works well. My kids know how to use this tool. How do I do an activity to incorporate it? So you could be doing the same with your 2D shapes, right? Like you're using Uno cards and using 2D shapes, but you might add pop sticks or they might have to add some additional things, but it's not unfamiliar to them. And like we said, these kids might like to do that activity for 2 weeks straight, 3 weeks straight. That's okay. That's great.
Yes. I was going to say the same thing. Don't underestimate the reusability of some of these activities. We think that we have to mix it up all the time. We don't. Get some feedback from your students or watch. What are they enjoying? What is working? And keep that in the rotation. You don't always have to be mixing up with brand new activities.
And that's a key to your confidence. If they're able to play a game they know, they're familiar with, they're confident with it. Who has not, oh my God, who has not played with, a child of any child who just loves, I'm still hitting my mid-40s. I will play Uno, the traditional game, until the sun rises. I love that game. My daughter is so into Sleeping Queens at the moment. We played it, I think maybe, 40 times one day. And, then 10 times the next day. So do not kill something when it is working. And I think, unfortunately, when we become adults, we feel like variety is the spice of life. And some people are more programmed like that. For example, I am. My husband is not. So don't get rid of it. It's going to build your kids' confidence, especially those who find maths hard and they might have a very fixed mindset. Leave that game for the year. If they want to play that game every week for the whole year, let them. That is my answer to you.
Yeah. We have a game in our grade 1 to 2 pack that's a friends to 10 game where they flip a Uno card and then they find on the grid the friend to 10. My daughter in grade 1, she's really competent with her friends to 10 now. She wasn't at first, but we've played that game almost every day since she started year 1, and we're in August now. And we start school at the very beginning of February. So that repetition has built her confidence. She enjoys it. And as you were saying earlier, you don't use it, you lose it. So it's just keeping that nice and rich in her brain, ready for her to go to school and use that knowledge. If you're at the point where you're thinking, I don't have any good games that I can use in my rotations, start with one of our Uno packs. I highly recommend it because you're going to print them out, choose the one you want, and off you go. It's that easy.
100%, 100%. Like you could print them off, not even look at them, give them to your kids and they'll go, oh yeah, I know what to do with this.
Yeah.
We don't recommend that, but that's how easy they are.
They are easy. And this is actually, it's kind of the solution to challenge number 4, which is just a challenge teachers have generally. I don't have time to prep. Like everything is so complicated these days.
Yes. I've got to cut, I've got to laminate, or I've got to go source that material, whatever it might be.
Well, trying to find a resource, you think, okay, I'm teaching length, I want a game, and then you just start with the internet. Oh my gosh, there's so much. Like it could take you an hour to shuffle through all of the ideas that are out there.
Yes.
For that one topic of that one thing that you want, or you just don't find the thing that you particularly want. That takes the time too.
It is. And then it's the decision of do I click on this link or do I click on that link? And do I want that product or do I want that product? And you're like, too many choices.
Yeah.
So, when we create our resources, we're always looking at what tools will the students need? What tools do teachers have access to that are always in their classroom that we know isn't going to involve them having to go and source extensive materials. We know you have access to a photocopier, you have an interactive whiteboard, maybe, you have dice, you have cards, whatever it might be. We try and keep it very simple. Since you mentioned that length activity, I feel like you need to tell us about it. This game. I love it.
So fun. So we just recently created a length game and it's called Length of the Worms. So basically it includes Uno cards. So you flip over an Uno card and that's going to give you length 1 of worm 1. And then you flip over another Uno card and that's going to give you the length of worm 2. It could be in inches or centimeters, depending on where you are in the world. And then you need to work out what the lengths of both worms are all together. Now, you could also do this with taking away as well, but you just got to make sure that the first card is higher than the second card. So you've got to make sure that your kids are all over that. But it's a fun game of using length and solving problems with length. That isn't just your boring old worksheet.
And I just love to know where kids go with this. Like, you will always have a kid in your class who goes, hey, that game we played with the length of worms? What do you reckon the longest worm we could make in our entire class? Do you reckon I could have some time to try and make the longest worm? And then can we measure it? And we'll have to go and get all the meter rulers from every single classroom and every single ruler in the class. Like, I mean, I'm wanting that kid in my class. I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
And why not?
Absolutely.
Child-led learning.
Yeah. So I don't have time to prep. We promise you. We've got tools to help you. And you keep it simple like we talked before. What is your formula? Is it dice? Is it cards? Whatever it might be. And then you go, all right, I can use that game or I can use that activity.
Yeah. We're very impartial to Uno cards. So if we had 5 minutes to plan our math lesson for tomorrow, we would go and grab one of the Uno activities and bam, you're ready to go.
Yeah. Mine were cards and dice. They were my...
Yeah, dice are
They were my
great.
The
thing I do love about the Uno cards over the dice is that the Uno cards can't generally fly through the sky.
I was going to say it's a sensory thing. It's like the sound.
A little quieter.
Yeah. So challenge number 5.
Okay, this one in particular, if you teach younger students, but it can happen in the older grades too. My students won't work independently. And this is one of the biggest challenges during small group instruction if you're running small groups. But it can be a real challenge if you've given your class an activity and you're asking them to all go off. And then there's just so many pockets of students that can't work on their own independently, even with partners.
Yeah. What do I do? What are the rules? I don't understand. Who's my partner? Who's in my group? You're like, oh my God, we've run
through this 3 times on the floor already. Yeah. Every teacher has been there, like literally every day probably.
Yes. So that's why a familiar routine is so powerful in this situation. So when students already know how the game works, they become increasingly independent. They know how to set it up. They know what materials they need. They know how to play it. They know how to record the answers. They know how to, oh my God, pack it away without relying on the teacher or peers. I mean, this kind of lends itself to your classroom routines. If you have a really good system, this becomes even better. But stick with the game. They know that they know how it's set up, whether it's in the tub or on the shelf. They know how to pack it away and off they go. Like, how empowering is that for a kid? Right?
Yeah. One of the things we always suggest with reading groups would be a really good little suggestion for this too. We say when you're starting your reading groups at the beginning of the school year, run a dress rehearsal. So run a week where the kids are just doing the rotational activities and you're not reading with a group. You're just standing there redirecting, monitoring, answering questions, reminding the students what they need to be doing independently. This is a really great thing to do with your common math games that you're going to be using throughout the year. At the beginning of the year, say, okay, this week is going to be dedicated just to doing rotations. These are our 4 or these are our 5 activities. Choose 5 activities that you want your students to learn and run those rotations with you, just facilitating, just redirecting, reminding students of your expectations, reminding them of what to do when they're playing the games. It's a really great way to start, and then you're kind of going to set yourself up for success as the year goes on.
100%. I think that moves us on to challenge number 6.
Yes. It's when you've got that intervention group that needs something completely different. And this is the balancing act of differentiation. Some students need extra support. Some students need to be challenged. But planning separate activities for every single group becomes overwhelming and teaches a time poor, as we've said already.
And I think this is where the good old game comes in handy.
Yeah.
So let's take division for a change as a piece, where you might have students who are still working on equal groups. They're still working on that actual concept of sharing. So you're picking games where they're having to have tactile, the teddy bear counters, and they're putting them into equal groups. You might have the students who are still working on their halving, and you've got an activity where they're practicing their halving skills and dividing by 2. And then you might have students who have gone beyond that. They're ready now to flex. They understand the concept of equal groups. They're understanding the abstract division symbol, and they're ready now to apply it to more complex dividing by 8 or dividing by 5. Or they're ready to move on to like regrouping and actually going back to using the counters and grouping them out, whatever it might be. You don't have to make it different. It's just kind of like you're building on the layers. And you can get games that allow them to be like, I'm just pulling out the game to practice dividing by 2. Or I'm going to pull out the game where I'm going to practice dividing by 4. Or I'm going to pull out the game where I'm practicing my equal groups. And you're like, boom, done. They've all had exposure to it. You're ready to go.
Exactly. I love that example because we don't talk about division as much as we should.
No, we don't. So that was for you, my division friends.
We do have a podcast episode all about division, and our editor, Rosie, when she was editing it, said, oh my gosh, I love these ideas so much, girls. So maybe we should link that episode in the show notes for anybody who wants to listen to some ideas about how you can include division in your learning.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Doesn't need to be as complicated as we make it out to be. So
no, it doesn't. I feel like we have been sold a lie when it comes to differentiation. When it first reared its head that we need to really be catering for the different kids in our classroom. So we were told we needed 3 or more different activities to suit those learners. And that's just not true. We've spoken about differentiation so many times on the podcast. Sometimes it's a little tweak.
Yeah.
We're changing the outcome. We're changing the process. Doesn't necessarily mean different activities.
Yeah. We'll link that differentiation blog podcast as well.
Yes, let's link the differentiation podcast. And what was the other one? I'm going to write it in my notes now. Division,
my friends. So challenge number 7. My students need more mathematical conversations.
Yeah.
Mathematical thinking, mathematical discussions, mathematical vocabulary. Oh my gosh, so much.
They need to use that language. And we have found in our experience that the most valuable learning happens when students are explaining their thinking to somebody else. And how can we do that really easily? Include math games. Here we go again with the math games. Math games naturally encourage those conversations when kids are playing in partnerships.
Yeah, they're comparing answers. They sometimes have to justify their strategies, ask questions and be like, or explain like, what, how? How did you get there?
Yeah.
I always had a little 10-minute, 15-minute startup to a math lesson. And I would always be making sure that everyone is participating, whether it was, with their whiteboard or marker or, verbally. but we were always looking at different answers or how people got there differently. So it became so natural in my classroom that we were explaining, we were justifying, we were looking at strategies, like what mental strategy did you use to get to that? Or how did you get there? But then also that will naturally translate into your independent activities or small group work. And you'll notice it becomes so common in your classroom. It becomes so common when you bring out games and activities or the place value war games that we have where the kids are flipping over, 2 cards to make the biggest number or 3 cards to make the biggest number. Kids will be like, well, why did you put that number there instead of there or whatever it might be?
Yeah,
So,
it's that social learning piece. Last week, we had the episode with Jess about math warm-ups that you can use in your classroom. And they were all low floor, high ceiling activities that really encourage that mathematical language and thinking and talking and explaining and reasoning. So that is definitely an episode to go back and listen to as well if you want more of this in your classroom.
but yes, partner math games are naturally going to lend themselves to mathematical conversations. So bring those into your classroom. You're off to a winner.
Some of our great partner games, those times table games and division games that we have, where you're using playing cards and dice, and then they're rolling the dice, they're practicing a times table, one particular factor might be times 4. They can work together and start to have those mathematical conversations. They are favourites in our store, so I'll make sure that they're linked in the show notes too.
But I'm looking at this really good one here that we've got in our new version for the grid game where the students are opposite each other and they flip over 2 single-digit cards. So it might be 4 and 8 and the other partner does a 4 and a 7 or a 7 and a 4, whatever it might be. But they have to then mark it on a grid and the aim is that they need to get 4 in a row on the grid. So if they've flipped a 4 and an 8, but the partner sees they've flipped a 4 and a 7, they go, well, I'm not going to do 7 and 4. If I do 4 and 7, I'm going to block her and she's not going to be able to get 4 in a row as quickly as I can.
Yeah, so fun.
It's these sorts of activities and games that you give students opportunities to play, builds their confidence, is really empowering and builds on that mathematical conversation, which lends us to our second last challenge.
Yeah, challenge 8. I don't want another resource. I'll only use once. We hear you. We don't want you to fill your Google Drive, to fill your display folders, to fill your drawers with resources you'll only use once.
We've all inherited that classroom with a whole collection of A4 folders. Well, I don't know if that's happening as much nowadays, but back in the day, you'd go into a classroom, you'd be like, why is there 2 bookshelves of resources here?
Yeah, sometimes you find a goodie there, but like a lot of the time, it ends up in the bin. So the real question we're going to ask here is how many resources do you actually need that you're going to use over and over again every year? And the best classroom resources aren't ones that just help you teach one lesson. They're ones that solve dozens of problems, help you in dozens of lessons. And we're going to come back to the Uno cards here, but you could transpose those out for a deck of playing cards as well. You can teach hundreds of mathematical concepts from kindergarten all the way through to grade 6 using this one resource. And instead of constantly purchasing new activities, you're building a classroom toolkit that grows with your students. So they're the sort of resources that are worth investing in. Now, if I was going to walk into a classroom tomorrow and I was teaching grade 3, I would go to these Uno activities and they would be my core activities that I would be using. I'd be doing explicit teaching, teaching those concepts, running my small groups, and then having these as my fast finishes, solving challenge number 1, having them to help me differentiate and cater for my intervention groups, that's solving another challenge we spoke about, engaging my students when they're working in small groups, developing that mathematical language. I think we've got to think so purposefully about our resources because we can be sold so many things and there's so much out there, but that can just add to the challenge of all of these other challenges we've been talking about today.
Yeah. It's like just going to the grocery store and working out which cereal would be the best cereal for me if I wanted to eat cereal, if that's even a good choice for me to eat.
Yeah.
So like these sorts of games that you can use on repeat is like, we got this money game where the kids are like generating dollar amounts and they're having then to calculate the number of coins they need to make that value. You've taught that concept you pull that game out the following term, kids know how to play it. They're doing it again, and you're not having to explicitly teach money, but they're still building on that skill of money. Or whether it's you got those kids who still need to be working on their doubles or near doubles, you're pulling out a game that they can do the following term, the following semester to build on that skill set. It's not sitting there collecting dust. We highly recommend you look at resources maybe just a bit differently of like, can I use this a dozen times? And if the answer is yes, then you know you're onto something that's going to help build confidence, empower students, bring in mathematical discussion, all that jazz.
Yeah. I think the other piece we're thinking about using resources over and over again is our students have to enjoy them in order for them to be reusable. So that's another sort of piece that we've got to think about when it comes to reusing our resources and having games, activities, things, our go-tos, like our core go-to things when it comes to math. And that's why I suppose we always keep landing back on those Uno cards because we know that kids love them.
Yeah, I guiltily do as an adult. So
yeah,
if you love them, the kids usually love them too. They just rub off your enthusiasm, which leads us to challenge number 9.
Which is one that we don't want to have, but our students switch off during math.
That's my daughter at the moment with one teacher. She's like, I was like, we could maybe take some math games in. Your teacher mentioned she might like some. She's like, oh my gosh, Mummy, let's do that after school today. Let's print off some of your math games and we'll take them in. I was like, all right, sweet. And like instantly her eyes lit up. She goes, I know these games are fun. I know these games. She just thinks they're fun, but she's learning skills and becoming really quick at, say, her friends to 10.
It's hard when your mum is an awesome resource creator / knows how to make a killer game, and then your teacher is not so great.
Yeah. So I've got to go rummage through all our measurement things in our Uno packs for her to send in because she's like a little face always on a Wednesday. It's like, but if your students switch off during maths, you're wanting to look at it's more simple than you realize, keeping it simple to make it more engaging. So when students are engaged, they're willing to practice longer, think more deeply, and develop the confidence that every mathematician needs. You see it when you pull out a game and kids just lock in and they're like, the bell goes and they're still playing. That's an indication to you right then and there. It's a good game. Or when it's transition time, you're like, all right, guys, you got to pack up. And they're like, oh, I was just about to get the highest score or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That's an indication that you're onto something where they're engaged, they're locked in, and there is no turn off button that you can see.
And you know when you don't get those moments? You don't get those moments when you give out a worksheet.
No.
So I guess kind of what we've been saying this whole episode, we've been spruiking games, really, and that hands-on learning piece where they're working with concrete materials. And that is when you're going to start getting that engagement piece that comes in, which is going to stop your students switching off during math. And even like put on a little bit of a show. Sometimes the way you present something, the way you package it up is contagious to your students. So if you're saying we're going to be playing a really fun game today, I've played it with my other grade 4s before. They loved it. I bet you're going to love it too. Can you tell me at the end what you think of it? They've already got those positive vibes in their head. And I was actually talking to my dad about this the other day because he works at the university and he teaches student teachers to become teachers, right? And we were talking about like putting on a show. And one of the student teachers had said to him, like, I want to be authentic and I don't want to put on a show. And I said to Dad, well, teaching is acting. You're getting in the classroom and you are putting on a show the entire time. You are the entertainment. And I think that piece is important too. If your students are switching off during math, mix things up. Bring the energy so that then they have to match the energy.
You're the provocation.
Or do you do that too?
No, you're the provocation that gets them hooked in and inspired. And, there's teachers who will take that to the extreme. And there are others who will just do it in the way they do in their natural human form. When I say extreme, they come in as characters and so forth.
But those teachers are the best. And they're the ones you remember.
They are. So I think at the end of the day, you're looking at something that hooks and engages your class. We know that games do that. Now, we're not saying there is no place for worksheets in our classroom. I just want to come back to this as like a little disclaimer that You will find that when students are playing these sorts of games, they do get through their worksheets quicker if they are just bumping out the facts or no like high ceiling elements to it. So yeah, there are times where the kids get the worksheet, they finish it in 5 minutes or less and they know I've got a game to play and they're hooked in and they're building that skill. They're just like perfect partners. Think of the 20-80 rule. 20 worksheets, 80 games, like games.
Yeah, we love games. I agree with you. I'm glad that you said that because there's a place for everything in our classrooms. Like we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I'm sure there's fantastic worksheets you've used over the years that you're like, no, this is what a go-to when I'm teaching 2D shapes and I'm keeping it. Good, go for it, keep it. But also we're saying, think about adding in these elements of games because they're not just a thing to add in 20 minutes before the lunch break. They're helping kids solve problems. They're helping you make differentiation easier. They're saving you planning time because you can use them over and over again. They're keeping the students engaged. They're encouraging that independence and they're also creating those meaningful mathematical conversations in the moment that aren't forced.
So if we haven't convinced you, then we're terrible. But get yourself playing some games and just test the waters with just a handful to start off. And I think your class and how they interact will speak volumes for you to know that actually this is something that is very successful for my class and our learning.
I wanted to add another disclaimer before we wrap up the episode. We've been talking about games and saving teachers time and reusing them and all of those things, but we didn't talk about the laminating piece. Where do we stand on laminating these days? Because that takes time.
I'm saying nothing needs to be laminated now.
Yeah, same.
I still get some laminated things from my kids' classrooms. And I think, do you know what? Life is transient. So should maths games be a bit transient, but should have the opportunity to be recycled and repurposed and made into something else. So if you're feeling like you need to laminate anything in your classroom, I'm saying you don't. Instead of investing in laminating sheets, invest in thicker paper.
Yeah.
100 GCM, 160 GCM. And you just laminate your certificates on a thicker bit of piece of paper, your happy birthday things on a bigger piece of paper, your bookmarks on a bigger piece of paper, your math games on a bigger piece of paper. And if you're putting it in a wipe and write sleeve, mate, I just use plastic sleeves because my kids used to have portfolios and I kid you not, like 1,000 plastic sleeves in my classroom. I'm not going to buy new wipe and write sleeves. I'm going to get the plastic sleeves and just slot it. And that's how we played games. And when they got ratty or tatty, see if a kid wants them, or you just recycle them, or they become scrap paper and they're made into something else. I actually don't think anything needs to be laminated nowadays.
No, I would second you 100%. Print them out on that thicker card. And as we said, if they start to get a bit ratty, say to a child who wants to practice 4 times tables at home. Yeah, I will. Great. Take that home and you can print out a fresh one. But that is so much better for the environment than laminating it.
It is.
And also it's going to save you so much time.
Yes. It's going to save you having to get a laminator, getting laminating sheets, turning it on, sitting there and doing it. I know you can watch
it to heat up.
The smell of it. Oh,
yes.
My gosh.
We've got this new little catchphrase here at Rainbow Sky Creations is that on Sunday nights, you should be watching Netflix, not watching Netflix while laminating.
Yes, 100%.
Now, before we go, speaking of games, if you want to grab some games, if you want some go-to games just to get started, as we said, we would recommend our Uno games. But right now, we have got something happening with our rainbow coins in our shop.
That's right. If you have ever bought a product from our rainbowskycreations.com shop, if you leave a review, you will get 100 rainbow coins. So that's our little loyalty program. You always get rainbow coins when you make a purchase, but if you leave a review, it's 100 rainbow coins until the end of August. And that is $1 credit in your rainbow purse that you can use for a future purchase. Now, we have teachers who don't stop at the one product. They buy 4, 5, 10, 15. You can leave 15 reviews and get 100 credits for every review. And that's $15 credit in your pocket to use for a future game you could buy for your maths class. So jump onto our website. We'll put the link in the show notes. Go log in. You can check your rainbow coin credit or check your account and go leave some reviews, my friend. You have until the end of August 2026.
Yes. You have till the end of August to earn 100 coins.
Yes, and then it drops down to
still earn
50
coins. It was going to drop down to 50 coins per
Yeah.
review. So go and do that. You might be able to go and leave some reviews. Be strategic. Go and leave some reviews, collect your coins, and then go and find a game that you want to try in your class after this episode.
Yeah. What's on your wish list, my friends?
You've got about a week if you're listening to this live. So good luck. Go forth. And until next week, so we'll be back same time, same place next Monday. There are rainbows ahead, my friend.
And together, we're unstoppable. Thanks for choosing to listen to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the go-to show dedicated to teachers who want to make a big difference in education.
If you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a 5-star review or share the episode with a friend. Because together, we're
Unstoppable.